I'm Dad.
And I'm Wyatt.
And this is Oshkosh or Bust.
Pedal-powered wings rolling low and slow, making their way to the big air show. Gonna set a world record. We picked the perfect spot. Gonna park 'em right next to the big green dots. I'm Dad.
And I'm Wyatt.
Welcome to the show. Chocks away, it's time to roll. High speed,
Low drag.
in thrust we trust. Gotta make it to Wisconsin. It's Oshkosh or bust.
Oh yeah.
I'm Dad,
And I'm Wyatt.
and we are back for another episode of Oshkosh.
Or bust.
And it's a great episode today. We have got a back-to-back interview with Mr. Rob Peterson, a veteran pedal plane builder. He just so happens to be the man putting together this year's Guinness World Record attempt. We're going to talk to Rob about what's going on behind the scenes to make Pedalventure happen.
Yep.
And then when I'm done talking, what are you going to talk to Rob about?
When Dad's done talking to Rob, I'm going to talk to Rob Peterson about the pedal planes that he is currently working on, and he is working on 2 pedal planes, and hopefully they can make it to Oshkosh because there are some really cool pedal planes.
That's right. Wyatt's got his first interview of the series. I was very proud of the way you prepped for it, put all of his own questions together, and I'm looking forward to seeing the finished product. And we thank Rob for not only sitting down with us, but for being your guinea pig as well, right?
Yeah.
All right, so before we get to the interviews today, we've got some very important information. Oshkosh's YMCA, the YMCA in Oshkosh, is offering, get this, indoor camping spots. Camping with air conditioning. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, that's my kind of camping.
I think it's pretty awesome. For $45 a night, you can buy a camping spot inside the Oshkosh YMCA. Pitch your tent, bring your sleeping bag, and they are going to allow you to camp there for $45 a night. There'll be more information down in the video description, so make sure to look for that link. And as always, we have our links to the GRUENHAGEN Conference Center at the University of Wisconsin in Oshkosh and Camp Scholler, where you can still find camping spots available. We are less than 20 days away from Oshkosh as we record this video today. Our pedal plane is entering the home stretch of its repainting and fixing some problems, and we are getting very excited. Why is this episode very special, Wyatt?
Well, because I'm really hoping that I'm gonna be there with my pedal plane, and it's just so exciting because I want to go to Oshkosh again, and Oshkosh is really excited.
That's right, and this is our last video before Oshkosh.
Yeah.
Once we wrap production today, we're going to take down the stuff here in the studio, we're going to put the video stuff on hold, and we're going to start packing the generators and the sound equipment and the t-shirts and everything that we're going to need to take with us to Oshkosh. Don't let me forget the pedal plane.
Okay.
Okay, and we're going to hit the road on July the 23rd and head for Oshkosh for Pedalventure on July the 24th.
Yep.
We're going to talk about what's going to happen the day of Pedalventure coming up here on Oshkosh
Or bust.
Hey everybody, I'm Dan, and this episode of Oshkosh or Bust is brought to you by Crafts by Carrie. Carrie and Will Todd of Carmen, Illinois have been providing us some hangar space to repair and repaint our P-51 Mustang named
Wyatt Open Wyatt.
That's right, and we could not have made this whole project happen without the support of our friends at Crafts by Carrie, so we have a special request. Would you please head over to the Crafts by Carrie Facebook page, give them a like, and take a look at all the great handcrafted items that Crafts by Carrie has available. We're talking to our friend Rob Peterson today, a pilot for a major U.S. air carrier. He's the guy organizing our Guinness World Record attempt, and he's also got a pretty hefty pedal plane addiction. But we're going to talk to Rob about everything going on behind the scenes to make this Guinness World Record attempt happen this year at Oshkosh. Now, last year at Oshkosh, we had our first ever gathering of pedal planes, or Pedalventure. We had 29 planes. We had a great parade, which incorporated many of the local children that were there. We had a great photo opportunity in front of the C5 Galaxy, and we all went home feeling pretty good. But the one thing that was just a little less than satisfactory is that we couldn't seem to get the interest of the folks at Guinness. And so Rob decided to take a second stab at it. Whether they didn't understand what a pedal plane was or whether they weren't interested in pedal planes in general, Rob decided to make a second run at a Guinness World Record.
It started shortly after the parade last year. I think all of us came home and kind of nobody really saw a reason not to do this again this year. We had a good time. We thought we had a good turnout. and seemed like a successful event, even though it was unofficial from Guinness's standpoint. So we decided to go ahead and do it again this year. And, Andy ran most of it last year. He was really the guy that spearheaded everything. And of course, shortly after the parade last year, he took a job down in Florida and left EAA. And so I sort of picked it up from there where he left off. And I contacted Guinness again toward the end of last year, November or December of last year. And I really didn't have any expectation that they were going to give on any of the requirements. I kind of laughed when you said they had a lack of interest. I would call it a lack of understanding. They set the goals last year so high that it really wasn't feasible. It didn't seem like an obtainable goal for us last year. So I reached out to them the end of last year, November or December, and explained to them the difficulty that we had with the numbers that they required, 100 airplanes and a 2-mile parade and that kind of stuff, and just said it's just not obtainable, and sort of made our case, begged and pleaded a little bit, and asked for some relief to those regulations, never really expecting to get it. And I was really surprised when they came back, and they did give significantly on it. Not as much as I had asked for, but they did give some consideration to the arguments that I'd made. They dropped the number down to 50 from 100, and they dropped it down to 1 kilometer from, I think it was 2 miles last year that they wanted. So that was a huge break. It's still a really high bar that they left it at, and I think that was intentional. They want this to be a difficult task to set a record. And I was concerned, still really concerned about the 50 total number of planes that we needed. And it's still, like I said, that is a high bar. But I'm finding going through, now that I've really gotten deep into the application process and the preparation process, I'm finding that the number of planes for this record is not even half of the challenge to setting a record. There's 35 pages of what's called the guide to evidence, that you have all the requirements that you have to meet to set a record, and then an additional 5 pages specific to our record. So there's 40 pages of stuff that we have to make sure that every I is dotted, T is crossed, that all the requirements are met in detail. And it's been a lot of back and forth on clarifying exactly how all of those rules apply to our situation, and making sure that whatever they need pre-approved is pre-approved before the event date. Like coming up next week, we've got a surveyor that has to go out to the actual site and measure the course to make sure that it meets the 1 kilometer, and so we know exactly where the start line and the finish line will be so that it meets those requirements. And all of that stuff has to be, witnessed and certified and all that kind of stuff. So it's a huge process to make sure that all of those rules are followed. So that's where we're at right now.
Our Guinness World Record attempt and our Pedalventure gathering will take place Wednesday, July the 24th, during the normal Airventure fly-in in Oshkosh. So not only will there be airplanes all around you, not only will there be a festival in the sky, there will be tons and tons of people. Rob talks about what we can all expect on Wednesday during Airventure, what our Pedalventure event is going to look like, and how you can find someone who can get you help.
Yeah, throughout the day on the 24th, July 24th, the event date, if people with an airplane or a child that will be in the parade or both can stop by the Aviation Products tent. It's right in front of the EAA warehouse, kind of on the northeast corner of the EAA warehouse there, and stop in so we know that you're there. Even if you've contacted me beforehand, it'll still be really helpful to stop in sometime throughout the day just to let us know you're there, make sure we have your contact information, and we'll make sure that you're signed up. Then the event itself is going to start 4 o'clock, and it's a little bit, the staging area is going to be a little bit west of the Aviation Products tent, kind of in front of the Ford tent. Ford has a large tent that they have not really a tent, it's an exhibition area, we'll call it. We're going to gather kind of in the grass or the pavement in that area. It's just a couple hundred feet from the aviation products tent. So we'll have somebody there, or at the very least a sign there to kind of direct people exactly where to go, but you can almost see it from there. It's not very far at all. So 4 o'clock, we're going to start staging the aircraft, getting kids and planes paired up, briefing all of the volunteers and parents as well. And the parade will start from that staging area there. It goes just a short distance to Celebration Way, which is kind of one of the main drags at Oshkosh there. We'll go west on Celebration Way, make a U-turn, and then it finishes up at Boeing Plaza. And when everybody reaches Boeing Plaza, we'll kind of fan all the planes out in front of usually a C-5 or something huge parked there. We'll fan everybody out in front of that airplane and do a group photo there. And after that, everybody is free to go. Parade should start, if everything goes well, should start promptly at 5 o'clock. That's our goal. And it's over probably sometime before 6 o'clock. We figure it'll take everybody, on the quick end, 25 minutes, on the slow end, maybe 45 minutes to pedal the route, 10 or 15 minutes for photos after that, and then that'll be the conclusion.
Okay.
That's the event date.
If someone would like to volunteer or bring a plane, how can they get in touch with you?
They can get a hold of me several ways. Facebook is fine. They want to send me a message. That's the way most people have been communicating with me. I check that fairly often. And send me your email address, and cell phone number helps too, just in case on the day of. Or they can also email me. My email address is rob, as in Rob, and dtw @gmail.com. So Rob Detroit, DTW, @gmail.com. They can get a hold of me that way as well. I have been, just today, most of the emails to volunteers went out. Everybody, I think, except the crowd control gang, because I haven't finished that up yet, and I don't have a lot of people on that list yet. But everybody else should have received an email today with kind of the details of it, a map on there, all that kind of stuff. Pretty much everything you need to know when you arrive on that day. If somebody has not contacted me, or if you didn't get an email, get in touch with me. Let me know which volunteer list you'd like to be added to. Right now, we really need people to do cell phone video and crowd control, which is just simply kind of clearing the way for the planes as they go across there. So those are kind of the two positions that I'm still looking. Well, that'll do it for the first part of our interview today. Rob Peterson still has to sit down and talk to Wyatt, his first ever interview, which he prepped on his own. Got a little dad pride going on, not gonna lie. Wyatt's up next as we talk to Rob about his 13 pedal planes, the ones he likes most, and, well, a few other surprises.
Now that Dad is done talking to Rob, it's my turn. And Rob has built over 13 pedal planes. But I want to know what was Rob's very first pedal plane.
The first one that I built was the R2, one of Gary's kits from Aviation Products. I bought all the kits for it except the wood kit. This was almost 20 years ago. And they didn't have wood kits at that time. So I had to do all the wood cutting, making all the wood parts by myself, but I bought all the other kits. And that was the first one that I built, a long time ago.
It seems that Rob is always making pedal planes, but I asked Rob, what is he working on now?
Right now, I'm working on 2 of them. They're just about finished. One of them is behind me there. That's the GB Model D Sportster. And in the other room is a GB Model B Sportster. It's similar to this one, but a little bit earlier version. These 2 were made back in the early 1930s, like 1930 or 31, forget off the top of my head, but they were the second type of airplane that GB manufactured. They started in 1929 building biplanes as trainers, and then when the stock market crashed in 1929, people couldn't afford to do flight training anymore, and so they kind of shifted gears to these Sportsters that were for people who already knew how to fly and had a little bit more money to spend at that time, some disposable income. So they kind of shifted gears and went to these sport planes instead of the trainer biplanes. And so I'm building 2 of those right now.
The GB is a legendary air racing plane. And so I asked Rob how the GB got its name.
GB stands for the Granville brothers. That was the GB company was founded by Zanford Granville. That was his first name, Zanford. And then he very quickly brought his 4 brothers into the business with him. So it was Zanford, Thomas, Robert, Mark, and Edward, the 5 Granville brothers. And they used their initials, Granville Brothers, for those initials, and that became the name of the company, the GB Manufacturing Company. GBs combine a lot of things that I'm interested in, kind of all in one airplane. I like air racers, and that's what the GB airplanes were famous for, was the later Super Sport, the Sportsters and the Super Sportsters that they made were some of the fastest airplanes of the early 1930s. And they came from a time that's most interesting to me is the golden age of air racing. You know, again, like 1931, 32, that's when planes were getting much faster year after year, or even from month to month. You saw real gains in how fast airplanes could go. And so they were really kind of ahead of their time. They look pretty primitive by today's standards, but for their time, you know, 1930, 31, 32, they were really advanced racing airplanes, high performance airplanes. And all of that stuff kind of interests me, the history of it and the speed of it and the time and all that kind of stuff.
Rob has built a lot of different pedal planes, but so I wanted to know how he picks the pedal planes he builds.
There's several things that I look for before I start a project. It has to be something that interests me, first of all. It has to be an airplane that I have some type of interest in to start with. Because when I choose a project, I mean, I build them 2 at a time, but I will spend anywhere from 6 months to a year doing the research on the project, learning about it, trying to find photographs. That's the most helpful thing to me is the photographs. And just anything I can learn about it, particularly stuff that's not widely known, that'll really help me in designing the plane. And once I gather all that information, I'll spend about 6 to 9 months actually building the airplane and painting it and all the finishing stuff. So by the time I'm done, I've spent at least a year, sometimes a year and a half on a project. So it really has to be something that interests me if I'm going to spend that much time on it. Also, I look for something that's going to have some kind of a challenge to it, something that I haven't done before. And that might be working in new materials, like doing some more metal work, or, you know, like the plane behind me. It's got a Lexan windshield on it now, if you can see it back there. Lexan is a material that I'd never worked in before. So there has to be something new to it. Maybe it's just how I build something, but it's got some kind of a new challenge, a new skill that I have to learn, or a new material that I have to learn how to work with, something new that I don't already know before I start the project. There's something else that I look for. And then kind of the third thing that I look for is something that's got a creative element to it. You know, and my job is very kind of a left brain job. There's not a lot of creativity in what I do for work. You know, you follow a checklist every time, or you do a procedure the same way every time, and you don't really get creative in it. And so I look for something that can allow me to kind of exercise that right side of my brain, something that can be creative. And that kind of goes back a little bit to the challenge of it too, that it has to be something that I have to figure out. I have to create something new or figure out something new in it every time. And that's what keeps me interested in a project. And then finally, sometimes I'll go through and I'll check off all 3 of those boxes, and still it all falls through. The project sometimes kind of picks me. You know, back in 2013, I think it was, I had started doing the research for the Mustang Dago Red. And I was at the stage of trying to find paint colors for it. Because Dago's got a red, white, yellow, and then a darker red, kind of a maroon at the bottom. And I was having a lot of trouble finding the right colors for it. And I was in the paint aisle at a store one day, and by accident I found this green color that I thought would just be perfect for the Mustang Voodoo. And since I couldn't find what I wanted, and I found something that I wasn't looking for, I switched projects and wound up building Voodoo instead of Dago at that time. And I didn't know it at the time, but that was a very good thing that had happened, because I was not ready to do the Dago project. Dago was much too complicated in the decals and the flames and everything on it. I didn't have the right people in place yet to make that project happen. And so it got shelved for about 5 years, I think, before I got back to it. And by then I had the right print shop that I'd found and had worked with enough that I knew I could trust them, and they knew how to work with me as well, so that I could get Dago exactly where it needed to be. You know, I got every flame from the real airplane I got reproduced, every lick of every flame, and even where the flames will kind of interweave with the pinstriping on it. I couldn't have done that 5 years earlier. I just didn't have the right print shop to do that kind of stuff. And so sometimes, even though it checks off all the boxes, I still feel like a project kind of chooses me and tells me when it's ready. And that sort of happened with Voodoo. Got bumped way up on my to-do list by several years, and it got produced way before Dago did, but eventually I got back to all of them. So there's a lot that goes into choosing a project, because I'm going to spend a lot of time on it.
After all the time and all the hours, I asked Rob how he feels when he's finally finished a pedal plane.
That's when the stress ends. I feel, I guess, relieved more than anything. And usually pretty busy, because by the time I get done with a project, there's usually a pretty long list of things to do around the house that I've been putting off for months and months while I've been working on the build. So there's a lot to get caught up in all the other areas of home life. But yeah, it's there's some relief, hopefully some pride in it when it's done, if it comes out well. But yeah, relief is probably the biggest thing.
I want to give a big thank you to Rob Peterson for giving this chance to all of us kids to help him break the world record.
Okay, so that does it for this episode of Oshkosh or Bust. We're kind of giving you the look here, the unfiltered shot, so to speak, as we get ready to head to Oshkosh. Over the next few weeks, we'll be re-releasing our Series 1 episodes from Oshkosh or Bust. So while we're packing and getting the pedal plane ready and doing all those sorts of things, you can enjoy the videos from last year's trip to Oshkosh for the first ever Pedalventure. And boy, when you think about where we started last year, sitting in front of our desk at home and just doing these things, talking to Andy on the computer, and just the way we got started last year. And then
it was really fun.
It was. And then this year with the green screen and talking to all of the different guys this year and doing more interviews, this has been really great, Wyatt. I've had a lot of fun. Yeah. Have you enjoyed it all?
Yeah, I just wish AJ and Andy were one of the builders we could attach to.
That's right. We've made great friends last year at Pedalventure. Rob Peterson, the man we talked to today, was one of those friends. Andy Ovens, who put on Pedalventure last year, and his son AJ was a big memory maker for Wyatt. Mm-hmm. And fingers crossed, we'll have at least 50, if not more, pedal planes. The numbers are positive, but we still could use a lot of help. So if you want to volunteer...
We might get 60.
I don't know, 60 might be... That's a little ambitious to get 60. You think we could pull 60?
Yeah. Wait. You know that video of that jet one?
Yeah.
What if he came to Oshkosh?
That'd be cool if that jet pedal plane showed up. But you know, there are still volunteer positions that need to be filled. We're always looking for more pedal planes. And there's still plenty of places to stay pretty well on a budget. You might have to make some compromises, sleep in a tent or in a sleeping bag or sleep in a college dorm room. But there's still ways where you can make a trip to Oshkosh happen in the days ahead, and we hope that the information we've shared with you here in Oshkosh or Bus can help you make that trip happen. But this year is the first year that we're trying to break this record. So if you want to get on the ground floor of Guinness World Record breaking, you got to get to Oshkosh this year. Anything you want to say before we wrap it up, before we come back from Oshkosh?
I just want to say thank you for I just want to say thank you for all the builders that are taking time out of their day, and thank you for all the subscribers that are watching our videos.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that means it's time to get out of here and hit the road to Oshkosh. We hope many of you will be joining us, and if you're not, be looking for those videos and pictures as we'll be sharing our Oshkosh experience here on the Oshkosh or Bus Facebook page. And that means there's nothing left to talk about. It's time to hit the road and get down to the business of breaking a world record. It's time for Oshkosh
Or bust.
All right, let's pick up.